I was talking fantasy football with my friends the other day.
Alan, Bravo.
Echo.
November.
Tango. On.
Football.
What can I say? I really like that song. I like it. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to this Wednesday edition of Bent on Fantasy Football. As always, I am your host, Alan Bentley, and I've got my co-host, Joshua Worley, here with me. Say hi, Josh.
Hey, everyone. Hi, Josh.
All right. So we're gonna dive right into this stuff. But before we get going, I do want to congratulate Vince, one of our listeners out of Indiana. He was actually the winner of the Marcos Vapor gift card. So congratulations, Vince. Get a hold of us and let us know what you want from Marcos, and we will we'll get you set up. So we are ready to go this week.
We are absolutely ready to go.
Yeah, we're ready to kick off week number 2. The big one of the big things that we noticed from last weekend is that our stardom and situms weren't the best in the world.
They weren't.
But we're getting there. We're getting there. So before we jump into that, I want to talk about some players and some injury reports from training camp, or not training camp, excuse me, from practices. So you guys have the latest on these guys. Josh, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I don't think too much needs to be said about this guy, other than the fact that he's going to be out week 2. So not really much else to say there, but that's OBJ.
Yep. So and kind of the same thing with Evan Ingram. You know, he's been sitting down watching practices, so he's going to be out this week. Beckham's going to be out this week.
A big one that we're going to keep our eye on is Jerry Judy out of Denver. You saw how efficient he was with those 7 targets last week, 6 catches for 72 yards. Yep. He's got that high ankle sprain. He is expected to miss between 4 to 6 weeks, so not as bad as originally thought. 8 weeks was the initial diagnosis.
Yeah, and if you've seen anything on how he looked after that injury, it looked like a lot worse than that. So he got pretty lucky in the 4 to 6 week range, I think.
Oh, absolutely, I agree.
And then out of 49ers camp, we are hearing that Brandon Nyuk actually has a hamstring injury, and that's probably why he didn't have any targets last week, and made me look like a fool on my stardom. But that's all right.
Made a lot of people look like fools.
Yeah, that's all right though. Hamstring injury. He's coming back from it. They're working him in. He will see an extended role in the offense, so he will be back this week. So just kind of keep your eyes on him, and we'll talk more about him after this week and see where he ends up.
Absolutely. And hopefully sooner than later, because we're both really high on him as well.
Yep.
The next guy, Antonio Gibson, had a slight shoulder injury, seems to be fully practicing, and expected full go for week 2. So nothing really to worry about there.
Yep, good deal. And then the last one that we have is Raheem Mostert. Now, Mostert was injured. He suffered. He will be actually having surgery, a season-ending surgery. So he is done for the season. Unfortunately, we were both looking really forward to seeing some good stuff out of him this year. But yeah, it's not going to happen. He's hurt. So.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to buy into the Allen "you hurt me once" theory. He's hurt me twice, 2 years in a row, so I will not draft him anymore.
Yep. So, and just as a side note too, when we were doing the last show, you had some information come in that we can neither confirm nor deny that Mostert was out for the season.
Yes.
He's got some good sources here.
Been confirmed, so he is out for the season now.
Yeah, so good stuff. Well, at least for your sources anyway.
Yeah, not for my fantasy team.
Right. Well, I have him on one of my teams too, but he was riding the bench this last week. But
yeah.
So I got to find a replacement for him, and I'm working on that. But we do want to jump into our stardom and situm. We're going to make this a little bit shorter show today. But as for our stardom and situm, Josh, I believe I started last week.
I think you did, so I'll go this week. So now remember, these guys, when we say start and sit, we're not going to tell you to start a 5-star.
Right.
You know, like Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
You know, these are guys that if you have other options, better options, maybe don't start them. But these are guys who we think have high upside. Based on their rankings and based on where they're at right now.
Yeah. We're not going to insult your intelligence by telling you to start Tom Brady every week because, obviously you're a fantasy footballer, you know that. So let's run through our stardom first and then go back through the situms.
Yeah, I like that. So my number one quarterback, stardom, if you find yourself in this position, is Jameis. Now, I do have him in my Yahoo League. Unfortunately, I also have Lamar Jackson, so I won't get to start. Well, fortunately, I also have Lamar Jackson, so I won't get to start Jameis as often as I would like to. But against Green Bay, he was masterfully efficient. He only threw 20 passes.
Yeah.
Needless to say, they didn't need to throw anymore because it was a sheer blowout. But 5 of those were touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's
super efficient.
And he also had almost 7 yards per rush on 6 rushes too, which is just huge fantasy numbers.
Yeah, and I really like Jameis Winston this year, but I was a little tentative at first, but after seeing him the first week, I like the way he looks this year.
And I think they're going to be in a much more competitive game this week against Carolina.
Oh yeah, for sure. So my quarterback stardom for this week is Matthew Stafford. The reason I chose Matthew Stafford is if you go back several years, I liked Matthew Stafford then. He was in a bad situation in Detroit. Back then I said he needs to get out of Detroit, but he can't. Well, he's out of Detroit. He finally got the chains broken. He's off to play with the Rams, and he had a great start this week. One of the things that really caught my eye is that he had a 158.3 passer rating on passes 10 yards plus. So super efficient on that aspect. Now, keep in mind that his numbers were slightly padded a little bit this last week because the Chicago Bears defense forgot that Cooper Kupp even existed, or maybe they just refused to cover him. I don't know. Maybe they're all scared. I have no idea. But they totally forgot about him. So his numbers were padded a little bit. But Matthew Stafford is a good quarterback. I've said it for years. I'll keep saying it. He's a good, solid quarterback. He's in a good situation in L.A., and he's going to have some big numbers this week.
I like it. For running back, you want to jump into those?
Sure.
All right. I've got Latavius Murray. Okay. Now, a lot of people still see that role as Tyson Williams. However, Latavius did outrush him 10-9.
Yep.
Did have a touchdown. Now, even though he wasn't as efficient as Tyson Williams, one big thing I really noticed while watching that Monday night game, Tyson Williams got lit up a few times, he didn't provide good pass blocking, and which caused Lamar Jackson to get lit up a few times.
Yep.
One of which was that big fumble near the end of the game. Latavius Murray is a proven pass blocker, and I don't think they're going to roll Tyson Williams out there and let their franchise quarterback get hurt. So I still see Latavius Murray as out touching Tyson on a weekly basis. I wouldn't be shocked to see that number grow.
Yep. Latavius Murray, I'll say this about him. He has been in situations with other teams where he got caught up in too many players in the backfield. He didn't really have the opportunity to break free and shine. He's got that opportunity now. It's laid out right in front of him. It's his to take. So I think, as we go along in the season, we're going to be saying his name a whole lot more.
I think so. I agree.
So my starting running back that I have as a must start this week is Melvin Gordon. There's a number of reasons I have Melvin Gordon as a running back. I've been big on him for a couple years now. Did great for me last year. This last week he had 11 carries for 101 yards, averaged 9.2 yards per carry. 1 touchdown, 3 catches to boot, only 17 yards on that, but overall a very solid week. He's facing a very weak Jaguars defense. They're completely unproven, and I don't think there's really a whole lot to prove, to be honest with you. I think Melvin Gordon is going to tear up that defense.
I do too. I like that pick. And remember, before the season started, we projected Melvin Gordon as a possible league winner. He was being drafted right around RB32.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that kind of works out. But it looks like he really took over that job.
Yep. See, if you didn't listen to us before, listen to us now because we know what we're talking about. At least we believe that.
Yeah, at least we think so. Sometimes it works out. We're going to move into wide receiver now. I like KJ Hamler this week. Okay, he's going to be coming out of that slot where Judy was now. Judy had 7 targets in a very, very limited time.
Yep.
Converted 6 of those for 72 yards. So the volume for Hamler is there for the taking. So I think KJ Hamler is going to be a big score this week.
Yeah, and that's going to be a huge sleeper too. If you're looking at daily fantasy, you might want to check into him and see what the pricing on him is, because that could be a huge sleeper for you too. Somebody's going to have to take over in that Denver offense. Obviously, I picked Gordon to be a part of that, but they're in the passing game. Somebody's going to have to step up and take over. So yeah, I can see where Hamler would be a good pick as well. My wide receiver that I have this week is going to be T. Higgins for your stardom. He had 5 targets, 4 receptions, 58 yards, average 14.5 yards per catch with 1 touchdown. This team has no place to go but up anyway, and they're facing a Bears defense, like I said before, who completely unproven, non-existent defense.
I love every time he says that about the Bears.
It just kills me to say that, but I gotta speak the truth. And I think T. Higgins is gonna have a big day. Until that Bears defense can show that they can stop somebody, they're gonna get run all over.
I like it.
I hate it, but but anyway.
Anyway, on that note, we're gonna move on to the tight ends. Now, I was kind of high on Blake Jarwin coming into the season. But throughout the preseason, and more so in week 1, Dak seems to be favoring Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, he is.
I really like Dalton Schultz this week. If you look at his catch efficiency, he's at 100% right now. 6 targets, 6 receptions, 7.5 yards per reception for a big-bodied tight end like that is pretty rare. So
yeah, it is. He does get down the field pretty quick for a big guy.
And I don't think you're going to see 31 targets every week. I think that was a fluke.
Yeah.
It was an aberration to Cooper and Lamb. So I see Dalton Schultz getting more of those targets.
Yeah. I think you're right on that. I think he is going to get those targets, those missing targets, and he's gonna probably make the most out of them. So I think that's a good call. I
hope so, at least.
I hate admitting it, but yeah, it is. But my choice for tight end to start him this week is going to be Robert Tonyan. There's a few different reasons I picked Tonyan. Number 1, they're playing the Lions. Very, very easy, soft defense. But number 2 is Aaron Rodgers. I know you had your rant about Aaron Rodgers, and I think if that's the case, if he really didn't give a hoot about what was going on in the game, didn't care, I think that's all going to change. He is a pro athlete. He knows that he has to perform in order to go anywhere or to advance in his career. He's a smart guy. He knows that. So they're going to come out firing this week. I being the Bear fan that I am, kind of scares me a little bit what we might see with Green Bay this week.
And I agree with you there. We were both kind of high on Tonyan coming into the season. And I really do hope Alan Rodgers, get your stuff together. No, I really hope Aaron Rodgers works out those mental issues he had in week 1. He has the talent, and Tonyan is a great talent. Yeah. So I think the potential's there. I just and I really hope they get it together.
Yeah. So we've gone through. Did you? Oh, you didn't do your tight end, did you?
I did, yeah. Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Sorry, old age. So anyway, now we've got all of our startums. We're going to run through our situms. Josh, you want to start us off at quarterback?
I'll start us off at quarterback. Now, I was impressed by this rookie in week 1, but Trevor Lawrence is facing a much, much tougher defense. You got Miller and Chubb. I think they're going to keep him on his toes all day long. I see a lot of sacks. I see a lot of quarterback hurries. I see a lot of pressure. I don't really see Lawrence being able to adapt to that this early in his career.
It'll be tough. And I seen the same things that you did. I seen him being pressured. I seen him getting hurried a lot. But the thing that I did like, though, is that he did keep his cool for the most part. He had a few errant throws when he was under pressure, but like you said, it takes some adjustment. But I think overall he's going to be a solid running back, quarterback. I still think he's going to be a tough one this year. I don't like this week's matchup.
I do too. I love him this year. I just don't like it against that Denver D.
Yeah. Okay, so jumping over to my situm, it's Jared Goff. And now, if you look at Jared Goff, he had 38 completions out of 57 attempts for 338 yards and 1 touchdown and 1 pick. Now, On the surface, those look like good numbers, right?
They look like great numbers.
Yeah. The problem that I have, though, is that the numbers are not great. And the reason that they're not great is because near the end of the game, his numbers were inflated because there was a lot of garbage time involved. The defense was playing back and basically just playing a prevent defense, a bend but don't break defense. When that happens, your numbers get inflated because you get those underneath passes, you get those sideline passes, you get all these things that you wouldn't normally. The defense wouldn't normally be giving up. So they're playing Green Bay on Monday night on a big stage. Again, Green Bay coming out for blood, I'm pretty sure. A division game. I really don't see Goff doing it. I'm not a big fan of Jared Goff in the first place.
Yeah, and if you look at it, too, if you dive a little deeper into those numbers, that's under 6 yards per attempt. That's horrible.
Right, yeah. So you're going to have to get downfield with Green Bay and break up their defense a little bit. And they're not going to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on.
Now, this is going to be a not-so-popular pick. Last week, I picked Najee Harris. That was not a popular pick to sit. It came through, luckily. So this one may or may not, but it's going to be Elijah Mitchell. Now, I know he's going to be the number one waiver pickup for everybody this week. With the Mostert injury, Mostert had the clear-cut number one job. And he did well with it, 10 yards per carry. Elijah Mitchell ran, 19 times for 100-something yards and a touchdown?
In a limited role. However, with a fully healthy Trey Sermon, Jermichael Hasty taking a lot of those, I just don't see a repeat with Elijah Mitchell. We don't know fully what his role is going to be yet. There's a reason they drafted Trey Sermon where they did. Yeah.
They didn't draft him to be a backup to Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely. I'm with you on that. I don't really see Elijah Mitchell having the game that he probably could have in different circumstances. But, okay. So moving on to my running back that I believe we should be sitting this week is going to be Mike Davis. Now, I know Josh is big on Mike Davis, likes him for the season. This is going to be a rough week, though. If we look back, Davis had 15 carries for 15 carries for 49 yards, averaging 3.3 yards per rush. Pretty bad.
Yeah, not very good.
Yeah, no touchdowns, only 3 receptions, 23 yards, so not horrible, I guess, a little over 7 yards per reception. Not horrible, but yeah, I just don't see this week being his week. The matchup is not there. That offense is not firing at all. The whole team looks at shambles. So until they work things out and they straighten things out, I'm not a big fan of Mike Davis yet. I think there's potentials there, but this week I just don't see it happening.
And I agree with you too. I mean, I love Mike Davis season wide. I mean, the volume's there. He's got 15 carries. He outrushed the surprise Cordero Patterson 15-10. I thought that was a shock that Cordero got that many.
Yeah.
But he did have 3 catches for 23 yards, but that offense is just abysmal after week one.
They've got a lot of things to figure out before I'll be jumping on the bandwagon for anybody there.
Absolutely. And if they can't right that ship, I mean, we're gonna have some big issues.
Yeah. All right, moving on to wide receiver.
We're going to do wide receiver, yeah. And my guy here had a big week one. Mm-hmm. This may not be a popular opinion again, but it's Tyler Lockett. Mm-hmm. You've got DK Metcalf there. If you look back the last 3 to 5 years of Tyler Lockett's fantasy career, what happens after he has a big game?
Oh, I tell you, he generally flops.
Flops.
Yeah. I tell you, I'm big on Lockett, and I'll let you finish your point, but I'm big on Lockett. I have been for a long time, but keep in mind he is a number 2 receiver. And Seattle looks at him as a number 2 receiver. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And with the emergence of Gerald Everett now, who I streamed last week and got a touchdown out of, thankfully.
Yeah.
I just don't see another big week. He hasn't done it throughout his career, and I don't think it's going to start now.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. He's one of those players that'll have like 2 or 3 good weeks in a row, and then just fall apart, or he'll have one good week and then fall apart.
Or he'll have one great week like last week and then just have a couple duds.
Yeah. It's very, very spotty with him. Good receiver, good situation in Seattle, but not this week. I don't see it either. So we're on to me for wide receiver.
Your receivers, yep.
So I've got Michael Pittman. Now, last week I had Michael Pittman as one of my stardoms. I have him as a sit-em this week, and the reason I have him as a sit-em is because it doesn't look like Indy really has a number one wide receiver. Pittman has a potential to be that, but I just don't see the whole game plan changing in 1 week. Pittman's a solid wide receiver, but apparently Indy doesn't think he's a number one wide receiver. So again, I'm going to pump the brakes on Pittman again. Once I see the game flow starting to go his way a little bit more, then I'll be a little bit more on his side. But for right now, sit him on your bench.
I agree with you. We don't know what's going on with that Indy offense yet.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, just a refresher, Alan and I do have a bet we talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
He thinks Naheem Hines will take the starting job.
He will.
By the end of the year. And I think that's ludicrous. So.
Subscribe to our premium content, and I'll tell you why. There's good reasons why I say that, and I'll tell you why if you subscribe to the premium content. So
you must have a crystal ball or something, man, because that's just
I got two of them.
Absolute nonsense. Oh, God, here we go again.
All right, moving on.
That being said, we're going to move on to the tight ends here. Now, my last couple picks kind of went against the grain. This one's really going to go against the grain, and it's going to be Kyle Pitts for me. Anybody that listened to our first show of this year that we did, our first recorded show, we jumped into more of the statistics of rookie tight ends and how basically they're destined to fail their first year.
Right.
Or two even. Yeah. And that offense just looks abysmal. They're horrible, okay? He did get 8 targets last week, but he only converted 4 of those catches at a less than 4 yards per target rate. That's horrible.
Yeah.
He put up, I think, 5.1 points in a half-point PPR. That's a tight end, 18 to 20?
Yeah.
That's not even close.
That's barely even a starting tight end for a fantasy team. So.
And although I do wish him well this year, I'd prefer that he prove me wrong, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, it's hard to. I mean, especially after we talked in the preseason about tight ends and how they start out the season or their careers, I should say, their first season, and you look at the numbers, and history does repeat itself, even though you don't really think too much about that with football. But when it comes to numbers and especially position-specific numbers, you'll see that a lot. So kind of keep that in mind when you're looking at numbers. But yeah, I gotta agree with you. Pitts is in for a rough season. I think overall, I don't think he'll live up to the expectations. Unfortunately, hope I'm wrong on that.
He may shine at a few moments, but I just don't see it right now with that offense the way it is.
Yeah, there's too many question marks. So. All right, so my tight end for this week that I think you should sit. So there's a saying that I'm going to coin right now. So if you're Zach Ertz and you're Jalen Hurts, you must be in Philadelphia. So the problem that I have with Ertz is that he's going to obviously Dallas Goedert is the number one tight end there. There's no question about that, especially after last week. We've seen it a little bit in the preseason where Ertz wasn't getting the receptions.
Message here from our latest subscriber. Wanted us to call him out by name, Jay Patch. Thank you for being the 9th subscriber. Only 991 to go.
Yes, thanks, Jay. Appreciate that. We did have a little bit of a problem with the camera there, so we did cut out a little bit. But I do want to kind of run back in case you missed it. Zach Ertz was my sit-em. And then, like I said, Dallas Goedert has got the number one tight end position there. So he's definitely a sit for us. But yeah, thanks, Jay. Appreciate the like and subscribe. All right. So do you have anything else?
I have nothing else. I'm looking forward to this week.
Yeah, I am too. I think next week we'll probably go into a little bit more, not detail so much, but go through our start 'em and sit 'em and just start keeping track of what we've got, what we're doing, and what we're not doing, and we will have the bent predictions posted as well, so you can see how poor or how well we do. Yeah. Now, also on a quick note. The website is going to be up and running for week 2. It's going to be at bentonfootball.godaddysItes.com. You will see that. I will actually put that on the Facebook page I'll put a link to it. You'll also be able to get your active inactives from the website. So I'll make sure that everybody has a link to that. We'll try to put a link down in the comments below. Until next week, I think.
We're also going to have some glamour shots of us up on the website. So.
Yeah, so it's going to be done.
Action shots.
We're actually going to do that shortly here.
Hopefully we won't break too many cameras while we do that.
So wish us luck. We probably will need it. So until next week, we want you guys to just kick back, enjoy some football, but most of all, make sure you get bent.
On fantasy football.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye, everyone.